Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and my next review, which is for Black Bag, directed by Steven Soderbergh, written by David Koepp, starring Cate Blanchett, Michael Fassbender, Marissa Abela, Tom Burke, Naomi Harris, Regé-Jean Page, and Pierce Brosnan, and this follows this couple, played by Fassbender and Blanchett, who are in British intelligence, and all of these other people who I mentioned as well, who are a part of this intelligence system. And Michael Fassbender's character essentially has to find out, once he's given a list of names of these people, including his wife, who is the mole in the British intelligence. Now, this is a movie I was quite excited about because I was hearing great things going in, and I've been on a bit of a Soderbergh kick lately. I'm not going to lie, I finally watched Ocean's 11, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I think that's his best film by a long shot from what I've seen. And of course, earlier this year he came out with Presents, also written by David Koepp. So this is quite the interesting collaboration that seems to be very fruitful for these two. And I think that even though I did enjoy that film, I appreciated the direction of it, and I appreciated elements of the script by the end, it wasn't one that was the most refined, and I wasn't a huge fan of a lot of the editing choices in that one either. But this couldn't be further from the truth with Black Bag, because my goodness, this is peak Soderbergh. I'm serious. This not only does feel like a classy throwback to those, very dialogue-heavy espionage spy films from the early 2000s and before that, but it really does feel like a return to form for Soderbergh himself. In one of the most razor-sharp scripts you are going to experience and hear for the rest of this year, I really think. The dialogue is so snappy, so unpredictable, so tight, and so articulate throughout this entire thing, and just so sexy. I mean, this movie, it isn't overtly sexual, but it really goes to those places that keeps you on the edge of your seat and has such titillating dialogue that you can't help but just be absolutely enamored by. At least I was, and I think that is probably the biggest strength of this movie, as well as the editing is so precise. I really do think that if there's one nomination that this movie would be worthy of at next year's Academy Awards, I think it would be editing. This, I really do feel will be, in my opinion, one of the best edited films by the end of 2025, I think without question. And I think the direction is just so tight as well. Every scene has so much purpose and intention, and there's so much being set up that you have to be watching very carefully for, because it all pays off in a big way. I think for the most part, by the end of this movie. And I think that the performers are so up for the task in this film and bringing this all together. Of course, led by Michael Fassbender, who, he's kind of in a similar mode that he's been in the past few years, like The Killer. This performance isn't really too far out of the realm of something that he hasn't done before, but I think he's obviously great nonetheless. And there's some really nail-biting scenes where he has to, convey so much tension on his face and this nervous energy, which I don't really think you get to see from Fassbender a whole lot. So I really do appreciate what he did in this film. Cate Blanchett's great as always. I think the supporting turns are really the standouts here. Regé-Jean Page, who I haven't seen in Bridgerton, but I've seen him pop up here or there, is really great in this, and I loved whenever he was on screen. And he delivers some of the coldest dialogue in the entire movie, and he was totally up for it. And I also think seeing Naomi Harris, who I didn't recognize for a while, but she's really great in this, and gets some really juicy exchanges between Paige and also Blanchett. I really love their dynamic in this film as well. But I think the real standouts of the supporting cast are Tom Burke, who, has been popping up in things here and there, like The Souvenir and Mank, but this might be the best performance I've seen him given, especially in the opening of this movie. There was a dinner sequence. My goodness, probably one of the best dinner sequences of all time, and the tension is just so tight in that scene, it just cuts through the screen, literally. And I just think him and the dynamic he has with Marissa Abela, who I think is the standout in this movie. I haven't really seen her in much. I know she was in the Back to Black Amy Winehouse biopic, which I heard wasn't good, but she was great in. But this really, she really gets a lot to do, a lot of screen time to shine, and I think, honestly, one of the standout supporting turns that we'll see from this year. And I really do hope that this movie maintains some sort of relevance throughout the year, because I just think it is such an exceptional piece of entertainment from top to bottom, that it's so well put together, it's so well written, it's so well directed, so well edited. And also I have to mention the score from David Holmes, which is absolutely fantastic. It's like somewhat a mix between like a sort of industrial kind of music sound, but also like that classic spy espionage, score that you would hear in movies of the same ilk. And I really, really love his work in this. Probably my favorite score of the year, if I had to say so far. But my few reservations I have with this film, and I think that this could be alleviated on rewatch, of course, because I was loving this movie. Like, from the beginning of this movie, I thought this could have been, like, easily a 9.5. But I think it is a little, like, too slight for its own good. And I know it probably sounds, like, pretentious as hell, me saying that, but it is, like, a little too slick in some ways. And I get that's the point, and maybe you are supposed to be a little detached from the characters, because I think that in a way is somewhat the thesis of what they're trying to say, being in this life and being around people who you are having like these entanglements with, we'll say, and how you are supposed to navigate that, and how a lot of times people don't find a healthy way or reasonable way to navigate that. So perhaps that is the point of the movie, but it does feel a little too slick for its own good at certain points. As much as I do enjoy it, it does feel like an exercise in technical prowess more than anything. And I also think, since this movie relies so much on dialogue, of course you are going to get a lot of exposition, and maybe that's what kind of held me back from loving it as much as something like Ocean's 11, which has a lot more like great character dynamics at play that kind of play out more in a visual way as well. And so I think that maybe it relies a little too heavily on exposition, but it's still so well done that to me it isn't a huge tick against the movie. But yet again, with dialogue that great, it doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. And I also think that there are a few fuzzy details when it comes to some of the reveals and some of the plot developments and what they eventually do with it, which I don't think amounts to a whole lot. And that's something I would be interested in seeing how that plays on a rewatch, because I'm definitely going to see this movie again, because this is one of my favorite movies of the year easily, and I really do think that this is what I've been wanting from Soderbergh for such a long time, because he said he would retire, and then he just kept making movies, and I'm all the more grateful because of that, because if he had stopped, we wouldn't have gotten such a great classic espionage thriller like this one, which I just really think is one of his absolute best films from what I've seen. And I'm going to give Black Bag an 8.5 out of 10. The score could go up in due time, but look, I mean, it's not better than Ocean's 11, and so that's kind of the benchmark I hold all these movies to, and I think it really is kind of the closest thing from what I've seen that he has gotten to Ocean since he did that movie over 20 years ago. And I just think the precision of the craft that he brings to this movie, from the cinematography as well that he shot and he edited, he does everything. And I think it is so impressive that he's able to bring all these elements together in such a cohesive way. This is such an entertaining ride. It zips by just over 90 minutes and it doesn't let go, and I am just so happy that this is probably the first great theatrical release I've seen this year. And I hope that movies continue to pick up from here, and that Soderbergh keeps pumping these things out, because man, if all his movies are going to be like this, I am definitely going to be in the theater with my ass in the seat. So yeah, you let me know what you guys thought of Black Bag down in the comments below. Do you think it's one of Soderbergh's best, or did you felt a little cold or disappointed by it? Let me know all that and more, and please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie reviews like this. I know I said I was going to do my top 5 albums of 2024 as my next video. Sorry, that didn't happen, but it is coming soon, and definitely, most definitely, the next video you will see on my channel. So please stay on the lookout for that and so much more, and I'll talk to you guys soon.